Overwatch, let's talk about it. Overwatch Open, we have just seen our first game, Too Strong, did rise through the ranks quite swiftly and a quick 2-0 defeat. You guys had the pleasure of casting that, but we are not going to linger because we have got another game we're about to be diving into. And actually, we're going to take the opportunity now to go on a bit of a history lesson because there are some names that actually both myself and Dan are very familiar with. Jerasar, you could do some casting at some point. But Dan, you have the pleasure of introducing Anox, and some of these names, they begin with C, and I think they used to play Quake. Let's talk about these guys.
Well, of course, you've got two legends in Cooler and Cypher in their respective periods, and sometimes at the same time were the best players in Quake 3 Live, Quake 4 as well, in any iteration of Quake, pretty much apart from Quake 1. In the last 15 years, they've been up there, and they are some of the most iconic and gifted players ever seen. In fact, Cypher was actually considered to be, out of all the Quake, if you take a consensus from pretty much all the best Quake players, they will all tell you that Cypher is the most raw talented player that there is.
Raw in terms of like mechanical skill, in terms of stuff that can be applied to a new game.
This is the thing, isn't it?
Right.
This is the thing. Because these guys are 1 versus 1 players. At heart, at core, they play 1 versus 1. So they've moved into Overwatch in this team format. It's not, I mean, of course, there were some team formats in Quake, but you could be much more individual, so you didn't really need to focus on team play as much. But this is so much team play, so it's a new challenge for even them.
And in stark contrast, actually, their opponents, currently the best team in the rankings in Europe is Reunited, and their roster is an interesting story as well. What you've got here is actually a team that have usually gone from game to game. I actually came across them when I was commentating Battlefield, competitive Battlefield, and that was much more, you know, in the kind of contrast to what you're saying about 1v1. That was a chaotic 5 versus 5, almost arena-like play. So there is definitely some, you know, some comparisons and some parallels to be drawn. But this team do literally just go, oh, what's the next game that's going to be big? Oh, okay. And they just throw themselves into it. And they have done exceptionally well. Some of the big names in there, your likes of Mort, the absence of Too Easy, he was very good over in Battlefield, and they've recently swapped him out. So that's going to be intriguing to see how they grow. I know you saw them purge. You actually look really sad, as I mentioned, Too Easy's absence.
Quite interesting as well, because there were a couple of players that used to play for Anox in the beta. The two names slip my mind at the moment, but I'm sure they'll come to me. Shadow was one of them, who are actually now playing for Too Easy's new team, appropriately called Reunited. And
so Too Easy of him.
It's very too easy. And I actually cast a best-of-7 match with them last night, where they convincingly beat SG1, another one of the very strong teams in Europe. Maybe not necessarily Reunited strong, but they looked incredibly competitive, especially on the King of the Hill maps, where sometimes that individual skill does shine through a little bit more. But I just thought it's interesting how that story actually ties into Anox a little bit as well. And it'll be interesting to see how the players face off against each other.
I am intrigued to see how these, rosters develop. We're already seeing a bit of roster drama, which I just lap up. Like, if there was like an esports gossip magazine, I'd be the first person to subscribe. But I mean,
be the editor.
Maybe, I mean, yeah, maybe if there's anyone out there looking, pop me an email. But what I wanted to say was that this is something that, because this game is still, I'm going to keep coming back to it, but in its infancy, we're going to be seeing, I feel like we're going to see a lot of storylines develop very quickly. Too Easy now creating a roster called Reunited, of course, leaving Reunited. And this is a team we have to highlight are very, very scary. The best, the cream of the European crop, looking to get themselves a step closer to that $300,000 prize pool. The game is about to go live. We start on Route 66, and it's none other than Jerasar and DDK to cast.
All right, well, we're going to be hopping into one of the slightly less played payload maps, it has to be said. Route 66, just less favored compared to Dorado and Kings Row, even in the current meta. So I'm really eager to see what the teams are coming out with here. At the moment, Anox is going to be defending. You can see Cypher on Genji. I'm already excited. We were talking about individual high-level play. Cypher on Genji is going to be an excellent chance for him to show off that skill.
Absolutely. It's not quite like when you see Jadon moving to Heroes of the Storm. It's you actually get to see, it's not quite the darkest timeline in that sense. You actually get to see these guys using those FPS skills to good use. And already we get the push coming in, a very passive opener, as you mentioned there, from Anox. We'll have to see if they can just jump on top of that payload right now, find the right timing. We get a bit of aggression coming into this upper position as Reunited realize that this could be a problem. They try to break that initial hold.
Yeah, so the position on top of the Big Earl sign is a place that Anox were definitely wanting to keep a hold of as far as the high ground is concerned. Reunited tried to contest that. Winghaven even got up there somehow with Reinhardt, but he got shut down, and as a result, we are more or less in a situation where there's just a couple of one-on-one brawls. Reunited will have to regroup around the payload eventually. Kenzie actually gets taken down with an ultimate available. We're going to try and regroup with a sound barrier. Reunited currently playing 4v6. You notice unfixed. A lot of us are so used to seeing him play Pharah. Not in this meta. He switched on to D.Va.
Yeah, and actually we get the whole working out more or less so far. And let's see if we can get a bit of a break coming in from Reunited as they start to regroup behind Reinhardt. Winghaven, they can see him pushing forwards. Very nice camera angle. And he's losing a lot of health on that shield, but his team have arrived. The D.Va's there for support as well to get in there with the defensive matrix and charge down some of these players on the front lines. And we've got McCree in there trying to get the high noon in, but Cypher just able to stop that in time and doing great work to actually stop the push coming from Reunited. But still, they have enough people left to keep the push going. And now we've got more Genji action, but now coming in from Kaib.
Yep, and I mean, he's done an incredibly good job. He is the newest member, of course, of Reunited's roster, effectively taking the place of 2Easy. And Kim has just shown us a lot of great individual skill so far. In the Battle of the Genjis, I have to say, Cypher seems to have come off slightly second best, but there's still plenty of opportunity in the map. They've reached the first point. These doors take forever to open, but Reunited will now be progressing to the second checkpoint.
Yeah, very nice, actually. I was going to say, Kib. Is it Kib? Kib? Not Kaib. All right.
All good. KYB, if we need to fill time.
All right.
Got this. And this is particularly crucial on the second point here. You can see there's almost always at least a single DPS player on top here trying to keep a hold of the high ground. So we actually have dueling Genjis right now as Cypher tries to come on in from the high ground, looking for an opportunity to come in and break apart the Reunited offense. Mort breaking that with Transcendence. Mort, of course, now switching back to Zenyatta in the current meta. In fact, he tweeted as much as well to basically announce that he was no longer playing Mercy for the team.
Yeah, and actually Reunited doing a pretty good job here. Again, that Transcendence was just at the right timing to kind of break the initial, essentially what was the play there from Anox to kind of stop them. So I love that, again, they find that right timing, and you can see that it's worked out brilliantly, and a lot of resources expended by Anox there, not able to stop it. We've got that second door coming in very soon here now as the checkpoint is taken. And another last-ditch attempt to try to stop this, to slow it down, but how well is it going to go? We've got the Genji from Cypher in here again. He's going to pop the ultimate and see who we can slash down with this one. He's batting away. Quite a few opponents actually looking to be doing a lot of damage. No one's actually targeting him down just yet. So a lot of work done by Cypher, but it looks like it might not be enough though.
Yeah, not quite just there. Reunited still able to hold on. You could see though how quickly Anox were able to start that engagement because you had the increased speed from Zenyatta coming in once a Transcendence was actually being pulled. A complete freight train. The hero, I think, increases 200%, and all of a sudden he just zooms on in, and you go, oh goodness, everyone's here, and you can't kill him for a couple of seconds. So good initiation, but unfortunately the follow-up just wasn't there for Anox, and Reunited take the second point in very quick time indeed.
I was going to say, again, we're seeing a really fast progression of this payload, and once again we get what almost feels a bit like desperation at this point from Anox, because they've got to stop this payload from moving. They've got to start moving it back a little bit. We get the push coming in, and chaos all over the place right now as we can see a lot of fragging going the way of Anox. So actually this push is working out for them. Now they should be able to clean up the last few players here, but we expect some switches as we move into from Reunited for the offensive effort as we switch into this last checkpoint.
So the meta's really new, and the heroes that they're using, you know, it is at the end of the day only a couple days old. I don't think they need to be thinking about switching yet. What I do think though is that Anox did a very, very good job specifically picking off Cruz at the start of that engagement. So one support player went down immediately, and then you had Kib come in with Genji ultimate, and as soon as that sword was drawn, he went down as well. So all of a sudden, the bluntness of Reunited's attack disappeared. They're going to try again. Cruz again initiating on Lucio. Not able to get many kills at all. Only Cypher going down during the period of that sound barrier.
And once again, we can see the Transcendence is ready. Now, can he find a good timing for this? It might be soon here right now as Reunited are forcing their way in. They have lost Kib already, so maybe he won't have to use his ultimate just yet. It does look like Anox are holding on just right now, and they're going for the push back in there, finding, again, a good timing to just get themselves in there, finishing off the last few players, falling like dominoes, actually, after the first two go down. So another successful defense from Anox. Do you think Reunited are going to start to struggle here as, I mean, this last checkpoint is so painful. So 366.
I mean, it can go one of two ways. Reunited can stick with the same composition because they were very, very close to actually making that work. Anak had to come in with Winston to more or less save the fact that Sharek had no shields left on Reinhardt there. So Reunited coming in for turn number 3. We can see them making way. Valutage on his beloved McCree, looking for kills, actually expending the entirety of Deadeye, but not able to get the kills down, unfortunately. And on the other side, Rubicon on 18% after using that Transcendence. Unfixed back up on D.Va. Only Kib has gone down for Reunited, so there is still a good amount of sustain here, but Valutage as well, and all of a sudden the DPS is disappearing.
Yeah, really nice catch by Cypher on those last few players there. As you mentioned, D.Va, Unfix doing actually a very good job, and you can see the faster detonation on that suicide of the mech is pretty damn effective. That's actually a pretty sick buff, I've got to say, as you can actually catch people with that these days.
It's really good, and there's a reason why the meta shift has actually gone so much in that favor. Reunited now have got to be a little bit worried. I don't think they're necessarily getting destroyed in this final section, but the one thing that is screaming out to be said is that Cypher is definitely now winning the battle of the Genjis. Kib did a great job initially, Cypher's now coming to his own.
Yeah, and just as you say that, 2 kills coming in from him, and then even cooler chiming in with Lucio to finish off Unfixed. So pretty solid hold so far. I mean, the payload has been moving a little bit, but it seems like Anox are able to kind of hold it, push it back just enough. Each time these pushes are coming in from Reunited, they're not gaining enough ground, and with just a minute left to play with, perhaps they will be running out of time here. They may not be able to make it, so they're going to have to make this last push count. And what ultimates do they have to use? Well, not really all that much is going in their favor, just Reinhardt and Genji. We see Kib actually popping his ultimate, trying to get in there, but without anything to synergize with, it might be tough.
Yeah, exactly, and he's actually been forced to sort of stay up top. We see that switch that we were looking to see if Reunited would be using. The Unfixes move off of D.Va onto Reaper. Now in the current meta, D.Va very, very strong with the defensive matrix. You're able to sort of get in there and negate the likes of Genji, for example, as they try and shoot at you from afar. In this case, Unfix was looking to try and go around the back. He didn't actually have to in the end, though, because they basically completed the map before he could get his ultimate up.
I thought it was looking pretty bad actually in the end there, but they actually managed to get the 2 key kills. Kib's ultimate on the Genji, pushing it forward, getting some very nice snipes in the back, and they managed to push it over the line, and they're going to be very relieved considering how much of a struggle that last checkpoint truly is.
Cypher struggled just a little bit at the beginning of the game. I thought Kib did a great job of slicing and dicing and going a full 100% sushi on the opposing team.
Yeah,
but once we actually got to the final portion of the map, I thought that Cypher came into his own. I think a little bit of an unsung hero here is actually Kenzie, who was doing his best to get some of those initiations for Anox, because ultimately, people can't actually just go ahead and dive in. If there's a Deadeye available, they have to stay behind the shield. They have to play a little bit more passive.
And I love how we get the the Genji highlights right at the end here. You can see some of the work being done by Cypher, and again, just with those ultimates, really being able to create situations where Anox could just actually hang on, because eventually, of course, Reunited were able to get there. And apart from Cypher's effort, I mean, do you feel like there was do you feel like they could have done better, Anox? Do you feel like they were missing something in that situation? Because again, Cypher was doing good work, getting the key damage and pickoffs, but otherwise it wasn't
so
amazing.
I guess the question for Anox might have been, did we necessarily want Sharik sort of where he was? Did we want Anak on Winston, I suppose? Because Anak was doing a good job of jumping in and disrupting Reunited before Reunited initiated. But after we sort of get into a big team fight and Reunited have the upper hand, it didn't feel like Anak had that much of an influence on the team fights. And that's actually one of the big reasons why Reunited were able to eventually push through. If Anak was another hero, might we have seen a situation where they held? I don't know, tough to say, but it might have been worth a shot.
Well, we're jumping into the second half now, so let's see if the offense of Anox can be quite so troublesome as their opponents was for them in the initial stages, as the first couple checkpoints were very, very easily taken by Reunited. And we see this same dynamic, of course, holding the roof there. And let's see what Anox have to break it with. Again, Cypher's going to be so key, obviously doing a great job with Genji previously. He's going to be sticking onto Genji in this offense as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that pans out. And already we get some work coming in from Kenzie on McCree.
And similarly to last game, we see Reunited taking the top position. Actually, a little bit of a rare mistake from Cruz, I have to say, coming in on his own off Lucio, not actually following his Reinhardt, and allowing him to get straight into the path of Kenzie. An immediate flash and fan actually takes him out. That's right, guys, it still gets used occasionally in this game. And Anox at the moment are going to be feeling pretty good about themselves, getting to the first checkpoint, I believe, faster than Reunited did.
Yeah, it really looked like Anox did a great job in actually breaking up the defense there and being able to pick off people individually, really maximizing the effectiveness of their DPS characters in Genji and McCree. But now comes the attempt at stopping Anox from taking the first door, and so far it's actually looking pretty decent here again for Anox. Got Reaper running around there for Reunited, but of course Cypher's going to catch him. Really nice use of, again, the dynamic play, the maneuverability of Genji, and he should be able to take him down indeed. Reaper will be not long for this world, as we have the door inevitably soon to open very, very slowly
It was an interesting try, though, from Anox, because Overwatch is such a fast-paced game that a lot of people watching that would go, well, they just got wiped. It would have been easy for them to set up on the other side of the door. The fact that they can even physically get back there before the point got taken meant that a surprise attack was actually possible. Sure, they didn't actually pull it off on this occasion, but I think it's a really good demonstration of just how fast-paced and how quick a game Overwatch is, and how often teams can actually get caught out, because Reunited must have gone, we've got this point, and then suddenly they were thrust into the middle of another team fight. Credit to them, they won it.
Absolutely, and again, the door opening so slowly does quite a lot of time. You don't have that on every map as well, and right now we have the second attempt here to try to hold things down here for the Reunited side, and again, quite chaotic, but you can see the Genji coming into play. And just keeping himself alive just to be able to maximize his effectiveness on his team, but obviously his teammates doing quite well at distracting away from the DPS characters of Anox as they do their work in the flank. And we have Reunited now in a bit of trouble, but they're actually battling back pretty well here. You can see Kib is trying to do as much as he possibly can with a Reaper, but that payload is still moving. It doesn't look like there's enough support or distraction for Kib to really get back in there.
So this is this arguably is a little bit of a question regarding composition as well, because the way Reunited are playing in a merciless, that's a without mercy meta game here. We have Kib on Reaper that you can see now, and on the other side, unfortunately just dying, we have Sharret on Zarya. So what we have on the one hand is the higher damage output and the ability to flank from Reunited, going up against the shielding and the ability to sustain longer in a fight from Anox. And so far, the ability to sustain seems to be winning Anox more than their fair share of fights.
And they are in for potentially the last fight, which sometimes is pretty prolonged, but we'll see if they can do a better job than Reunited did, who did get a bit stuck there for a time, although they did manage to push it all the way in the end. So we'll have to see if Anox can have well, looks like I doubt they're going to switch their composition. They've been doing quite well so far. Now we have, of course, the group up, looking to try to make that first push. And there is Winston in with the barrier, and actually that's going to force Reinhardt back a little bit. Really nice to see Lucio's speed boost. Timings are very on point there to keep the players on the defensive side always in position.
And Winghaven trying to collapse, but maybe a little bit late there. He more or less ended up charging into the point kind of on his own. We're trying a little bit of a similar strategy in moving into engage, but Anox actually is basically anticipating that with Winston and jumping into Reunited before they even come out of their spawn. So Reunited have one last chance, I think, to go ahead and stop this payload once for all. They do need a team wipe against Anox here to stop them from getting there in a very, very good time indeed. Balutaja coming in the rear, using the Deadeye behind Winghaven. Very quote-unquote traditional positions here, and I think they have actually stopped the payload, at least for now.
Yeah, I was loving that Deadeye though, just, I mean, clearing some space, buying some breathing time there, and we'll have to see whether or not right now that Anox can find a way to break the defense, because all this time that they're regrouping, we get some good positioning from Reunited, able to take positioning on the flanks. So we'll have to see whether or not this push is going to work, as we have the Discords coming in, Transcendence, the barriers all over the place, as Anox push all the way in.
15 seconds for them to complete the point. This is an incredibly close match. Are we going to be able to do it? Anox still trying to push in. Most of Reunited is dead. We're down to some 10 seconds now. Cypher coming out with the ultimate. This is so close. The payload is practically on the point. This goes to a photo finish, and we have completion. I think Anox have just shaded that, but I need to double check with production what the official time was. That was an extremely tense, very, very close match there on Route 66.
Yeah, that was very close indeed. Obviously, due to the fact that Reunited were able to do a bit better than Anox did in the first couple points. Of course, it was smooth sailing for Reunited on their initial offense straight to that last point. So, yeah, it looks like Anox are able to take it.
That is very, very interesting indeed. Reunited, currently the third ranked team in the world behind Envious and Cloud9. They are the strongest European team, and Anox have come in and they said, "Excuse me, mate." And they've now got the first map. Very, very interesting stuff. Reunited, a little bit bowled over by that, I'm sure, but they only lost by, it was something like 5 or 6 seconds in the end. It was very, very close. They weren't quite able to stall out.
Yeah, I mean, it looked like on the initial defense, actually, the first point, that Anox actually had a bit of a better time initially. It was the points after that where it kind of gave way until the struggle on the last point happened. But when it came to Anox's offense, it seemed like they were able to kind of get in there and just kind of separate, pull apart some of the synergies between some of the heroes, just creating that chaos and depositioning a lot of the heroes, which is so important in a game like this. Just depositioning is one of the words I'll probably be using quite a lot, actually, in casts.
Well, I think that was kind of the job of either Cypher or Kib. Kib in those sort of situations. We saw the dueling Genjis in the first half of the map, and Cypher did, after the first point, seem to get the better time of it. And then moving on to the attack, Kib, unfortunately, didn't quite make as much of an impact playing Reaper as Sharix did on Zarya, and that extra sustain going through those battles might have given Anox enough breathing room to go ahead and complete. And it came, I mean, it's very rare that it's so close that you say, hey, I'm a Mei switch and an ice wall away from basically holding this. It's very hard to predict that kind of thing, right? But that's almost what it came down to. It was very, very close between them.
Yeah, really nice way to start the series off. Very exciting match. And we'll be taking a quick break before we go into map 2. Stay with us. We'll see you soon.